All right, hello everybody. We're back and we're installing an Eastwood welding cart for the new plasma cutter. If you watched the last video, upgraded plasma cutters. My old ESOB had like a nice little rolly carriage that it sit on that I could get around the shop. This one's a lot easier to move, but I still kind of, one thing I really want is I wanted it elevated a little bit higher than just sitting on the ground. And I wanted to be able to roll it around easy. So, and that's just in the shop kind of thing. Another thing that I'm going to mention, I mentioned in the last video. So this is typically what I'm using. I don't know that I'll get this installed today. But this is filtration, and it does do water separation as well. But basically, my old plasma cutter, I had one of these installed on a line at the wall, and that plasma cutter was directly wired in. This one you can move around, so I bought this so that I can put this directly on the cart that I can take around. If I load this up in my truck and I use this on 110 power, I'll still have this air system. And what that does is it prevents you from eating up consumables. Anyway, this welding cart is made by Eastwood. You can find it available just about everywhere. I'll leave a link to it at the bottom for an Amazon link. I'll also leave a link for the this filter system, and I'll leave a link for the plasma cutter just in case you want to set something like this. Seems kind of like the ultimate setup for like a small home shop plasma cutter. But let's get to it. We'll get this unboxed and put it together. So nice little instruction manual. Give you a close-up shot just to show you which one it is. Its intended purpose, I think, is probably for the Eastwood brand stuff, but that's kind of what it looks like. So typical, stamp construction. Nice powder coat on the shelves. It appears to be a lot of parts. So we'll probably speed this up in video just to not bore everybody. If something specific comes up, I'll try to point it out. Got a handle, an axle, 2 tires. So that was kind of important to me. So they're hard plastic tires. We'll see how I like that. I kind of like the rubber ones better, but it's an inexpensive cart. Oh, that's neat. So it actually has a ball bearing in the tire, so that may not be an issue. That actually may work out pretty good. Most of them just kind of ride on the axle, just plastic against the axle. This actually has a ball bearing insert. We got a little box of hardware here. These are the front casters. Those are actually pretty nice casters. They're hard plastic tires. Or maybe urethane. Actually, those roll pretty good. So I think the tires are going to work out okay. That's kind of important in a shop. How easy it rolls around things. That probably won't have any trouble hopping over an extension cord. So this thing is basically just a few shelves. So there's 2 shelves here, maybe. 2 more flat pieces. These shelves. This feels like a box of smaller items. Okay, so we got the bracket, the chains for the tank. This will hold the tank. I think the intended purpose, if you saw the picture before, ideally, I will probably purchase a PrimeWeld TIG multi-process machine. Probably their TIG stick. I think it's called the 225. That's probably what I'll get. That'll replace my old Lincoln stick welder. And I already have a MIG, so I really don't need that. But ideally, I would like to actually put both of these on the same cart. I don't know whether that's going to work out, and we may not find out this video, but we'll at least get the thing together and get the plasma cutter on it. So that's basically the parts. These are the uprights, or the larger uprights on the center. It is what it is. It's stamped steel. It's relatively heavy gauge for the application. I will say the powder coating is very nice. There doesn't seem to be any missing spots. Usually, a lot of times if they're mass producing things, you know, you hang this up and you powder coat it and you end up with a little spot. But these look done fairly well. Not that that's super important. And I think that's it for the box. Okay, so all of our bolts and hardware are here. Doesn't look like a huge mix. There's most of this stuff's M6 and washers. We got a bag of M8s, and these are M6s, probably for some special application because they're a little longer than the rest. So I like to see that. That should make assembly a little easier. Okay, I'll just go over the really quick steps. You start with the very bottom. Put the wheels on, put the axle on, 2 cotter pins, 2 little plastic covers over the cotter pin area. Snap, snap, goes together really quick. This used the 8mm bag of bolts. So this single bag will put all of the casters on. All I like to do now is tighten this up. And they have like a locking washer on the back side. But with a smooth powder coat, we're going to need a wrench for the back side. So I've got those as well. Get these snugged up here. And then we'll do a final tighten with a wrench. So not too many bolts and screws. And the quality of the casters and the wheels seems to be better than average. And will likely be excellent if you have a shop with a concrete floor and you're wanting to slide this thing around. I think this thing will hop over most small things. We usually end up in a shop. We'll just give it a try here. So, yeah, you notice there, it actually will hop over that fairly easily without any issues. That's actually better than the wheels that I had. They were slightly a little bit smaller and they weren't this urethane material. I only have one other thing with these urethane style wheels. Didn't even know that I would like them until I purchased it. But that is my little, if you've seen, especially like my Dodge front end video, the little stool that I sit on, it has these urethane style wheels. And they're pretty hard, but it's just something about them. They have enough grip that if they hit something, they'll tend to kind of hop over it and without any issues, where plastic or the really, really hard materials tend to kind of hit something and treat it like a chalk. But just wanted to mention that because I think that'll probably be pretty important to me. And hopefully it uses all the same size bolts. Yep, 6mm bolts. So our next bag of bolts will be these, and that'll be probably the majority of it. This is looks like an application specific, so I do like that. Basically, you only got to worry about 3 different part types. This is what I was talking about. I think they probably intended you not to have a wrench, but with this powder coat, you really are going to have to capture this. You can't really hold it. These eventually do bite down, but they need a little bit more pressure. No fault of the kit per se. It's just kind of the nature of trying to use something to bite into a powder coat. And this is the bolt capture, or the lock washer. Let's just see which direction they want us to go. So yeah, it looks pretty simple. So you're always going bolt on the outside, nut on the inside of all these fixtures, which makes it a little easier to assemble. I'm showing you the hat stabilization trick right now, and voila. Uh-oh. So, I mentioned, so I have my trusty Cobalt tool set and the new wrench set that I got for Christmas. And I have a 10mm. That's the dreaded lost 10mm. So if you have trouble with a 10mm, make sure you got one before you start this. These smaller bolts are 10mm. Just wanted to point out, these instructions are very simple. This whole thing is basically this section, this section, this section, and you're done. So it's not a really complicated thing to put together, which I like. I was a little worried when I ordered it. It looked like there were a lot more parts than there actually are. So the next one's on the uprights. They go on the outside. The T pattern here, you want that pointed up. So it would go like so, and into these bolt holes. And the same holds true, so your bolts are going in and out. It's coming together pretty quick. These I'm going to leave a little loose, just so I can adjust them till we get this next shelf in. So one of these shelves has ridges stamped in them. The other one doesn't. It looks like the next shelf that goes in is the non-stamped one. And it should go like so. And on these parts, if you'll kind of poke the bolt in and then push on the part a little bit to kind of capture the screw, it will save you tons of time from knocking out the screw. Got a little more lined up here. Now things are going to kind of start holding themselves, which is always good. And this is a little trick that I learned from installing other stuff. If you've got a little bit of leeway on these shelves, try to always make sure. It looks like they may have intended to do this, but there's a slot at the rear that goes up and down. Now what I'm going to do is when I finally tighten this up, I'm going to have this actually leaning slightly forward. And what that'll do, if I set a perfectly round part, or even a consumable, I don't want it to roll back and work its way to the back. I want it to always come forward. So I'm going to, when I do the final assembly, just a real quick tip, something that may help you. Anytime you're assembling anything like this, if you can have it, slight tilt towards you, that's usually better. We've got our slight tilt there, and I'm going to tighten up the rear ones first so it doesn't try to move on me. Okay, there's the second shelf. I would say we're probably over halfway there. And now this upper shelf is going to be very similar with the exception of the rear. And let's just check the directions here, make sure we don't need to wait on some screws. Rib stamping. Do not install the bolts to fasten the shelf to the rear upright at this time. So we're going to just install a couple of these to hold this, because on the rear there's a bracket that goes off that hangs the tank. We're gonna need a little slight persuasion here. And we're almost there, and just already looking at it, I'm not sure that it's entirely going to fit on here, but we'll come up with something to make it work. Okay, let's check to see what screws they intended to be in or not be in for this rear section. Looks like we can put the two side screws in, we can't put in the back screws. And I'll follow the same principle on this one. I'll have a slight forward leaning shelf. And I may have to make a bigger platform for the top of this. I think I'm maybe okay on the width. The length seems to be a little short for this particular plasma cutter, which I kind of expected. Okay, so we're gonna have that slight lean. I've got this one picked up. You can barely even tell, but there's just a slight lean for the shelves going forward. Okay, the rear shelf goes on, and you can kind of see there that's made for a, I guess a shorter, yeah, I guess you get the taller tank in there, but it would stick out quite a bit, which is fine. Get a couple of these in here. We went a little too high with the marking. So on this upper panel, make sure that you get your screws through lined up through both pieces. Okay. Should go a little smoother now. Okay, that's pretty stiff. Pretty happy with the overall layout of it. I'm gonna just put the chain in the chain holder before I lose it. Okay, and it looks like, okay, there are two of these. I was a little worried. So there's two holders that go on, and then the handle, and this will be assembled. Man, it's cold out here. So it's like 40 degrees in the shop. Shooting a video, can't turn on the heat. And I'm starting to feel the cold. I think we have enough parts, maybe short one or two screws. We'll know for sure here in just a sec. Actually, we may have a single extra lock washer. I'm going to check, make sure I've got all these bolts tight. Those look good. We do have a single lock washer. Don't think I missed any, maybe I did, I don't know. But that's always a good sign when you only have one extra part, and most importantly, we weren't short. So now it's time to put on the handle. I think that's where the specialty bolts come into play. We'll get those out of the package here. And these hopefully will still be the same 10mm that we haven't lost yet. We still have it. I don't know what it is about a 10mm. For years, if I had loose sockets, etc., it was impossible to find a 10mm. Well, not impossible. There was a time that you found them. Anytime that you were working on a vehicle and did not need the 10mm, you would probably find a 10mm either in the gravel or somewhere inside that vehicle. But the second you need one, you're not going to find it. So I did this on my last video. The Kaizen foam in the toolbox, I did that a few years ago. Have not lost a 10mm. And I have the Cobalt wrench set in a bag. Have not lost a 10mm. And my old trusty Cobalt tool set, the through hole ratchet that I'm using. I love this thing. I don't think they sell it anymore. But this has probably been the best tool set that I've bought for being out in the field working on stuff. This has tore down a lot of machines. So we'll get this handle on. This is where the specialty stuff comes in at. So there's one bag of parts with longer screws. This is it. And this is definitely the hardest piece to hold and get positioned. And I think I figured it out there. Almost there. Okay, we're all finished. We had a single part still left. We have not lost our 10mm wrenches or sockets. So let's just check this thing out here real quick. Okay, so one, it's empty right now. I don't think if I put weight on this, I don't remember what the weight was. It's either 150 or 300 pounds or something like that. Anyway, I don't think this is going to have any trouble rolling around. I do like these casters, that urethane. I don't know what it is about it, but it rolls around really smooth and really nice. It doesn't like, just take off and freewheel. It goes over and around things. Let's kind of re-demo this here. So that's going to pop over that without a lot of effort. And the handle kind of sticks out a little bit, so if you need to, you can kind of lift up on it. But this does much better than what I had before on my other plasma cutter. Now for the true test. I'm going to set this up on here, or try to. I don't think it's going to fit. Like I said before, I think I might have to make this a little bit bigger, which was expected. And then again, it may just work. Oh wow, okay. I was wrong. So it's pretty much a perfect fit. We'll try to get it nice and centered up. So this is amazing. So the little ridges exactly fit on the feet. So it'll prevent it from moving side to side. It does look like this handle will kind of protect this torch. It probably comes to about right here, just in case you're wondering. Just kind of trying to give you an idea. A lot of times this stuff's hard to fit up, and I'm trying to relay as much information as possible in case you do purchase one of these and you end up with the same plasma cutter. Okay, that's it assembled. Stow these tools. Make sure we don't lose that 10mm. Okay, so we got it all bundled up. It rolls nicely. Even though right now it's pretty, I mean, this is a top heavy load, it's got a wide enough stance where that really is not an issue. You're not going to really get this thing up to a velocity probably that it would like want to tip over. It seems very stable, and I'll give it 10 out of 10 just because of the value. It wasn't that expensive. Okay, well this is it. Hope to see you on the next video. Be sure to like and subscribe and share, and we'll put this machine to use here shortly. Thanks for watching.